Okay, this is a review of the test that's coming up. I guarantee if you study for the test by reviewing this review, you'll do fine. However, if you don't, the tests tend to be a little tricky, so it's not going to be an easy test for you. You must study. The first sample is, which of these line segments are parallel? So we know parallel lines. What do we know about it? They have the same slope, okay? Slope means rise over run, change in y up and down over the change in run. So let's just look at these lines and see if we can determine what the slope is. So from this point here, if we go up 1 and over 1, we're right here between up 1 and over 1 here. So we see this is a slope of 1 for this line. Let's try this line here. If we go up and we go up as many as we can until we get right to where the line crosses more exactly. Okay, so that's close here. So if I go up 1, 2, 3, and over 2, that slope is 3 over 2. So if I keep going, so this is slope of 1, this may be 3 over 2. So let's see what this slope is. Starting here, if I go down in the negative and go to the negative, a negative over a negative is a positive. So let's go down 1, 2, 3, and over 1, 2, 3. So the slope is 3 over 3. So it's negative 3 over negative 3. Gives you a positive 3 over 3. And that slope is 1. Any number over itself is 1. So these are the two lines or parallel. So on your test, of course, it'll be labeled. This may be AB is parallel to BC. So that's the way we look on the test. So be sure and count. It'll be like 4 lines on a graph. So you need to count to determine what's parallel. The next sample question says determine the slope of the line that is perpendicular to this segment. So here's a segment. We can name it A, B, or whatever. So let's first determine what is the slope. Okay, and we already know through our notes that perpendicular lines have what? The slope that's an opposite reciprocal. Okay, so what I mean by opposite reciprocal, if the slope is 1/2, then the opposite reciprocal would be, change it, that's a positive, be a negative. Reciprocal means flip 2 over 1 or 2. So that's what opposite reciprocal means. So let's see, first of all, what is the slope of the segment? So I'm going to go up, rise over run, 1, 2, 3, 3 up, and then I go over 1, 2, 2. So the slope here is 3 over 2. Rise over run. If I started here, I could go up again, 1, 2, 3, and I still will go over 2. So you're wondering, okay, what do you mean by go over? That means go over to wherever the line intersects right in one of the corners or the creases of the little square. So the slope is 3 over 2. So what's the perpendicular line? A line perpendicular, the slope would be opposite reciprocal, negative 2 over 3. So what they're asking for the slope of a line that is perpendicular. So the perpendicular will be opposite reciprocal. So the slope of the new line would be negative 2 over 3. Okay, here's the next sample question. Determine the slope of a line that is perpendicular to the line through the points negative 2, 4, and 6, 8. Now these are exact questions that will be on the test, but the numbers have been changed. So I warn you, you have to know what you're doing. So if you want to know a perpendicular slope, okay, so what did we say perpendicular was opposite reciprocal. But before we determine what that is, you got to know what the slope is. By subtracting 8 minus 4, so we're subtracting our y's. So we can label this x, y, x, y, 8 minus 4. And then over 6 minus a negative 2. Those are the x's, so I'm sure you see that. Equals. Now we're going to subtract. We end up with 4 over 8 as positive because those two negatives make a positive. It's 4 over 8. So can we reduce that? Yes, you can divide 4 to 4 one time. 4 going to 8 two times. So it looks like the slope is 1/2. So what is the opposite of 1/2? Flipped, that will be 2 over 1. What is, well, the opposite is negative, I'm sorry. The reciprocal flipped is 2 over 1. So it was a positive, opposite is a negative, and you flip it, reciprocal means 2, negative 2 over 1, or the slope, the perpendicular line would have a slope of negative 2. The next question is to determine the slope of a line that is parallel through this line segment. This is a line segment. Parallel lines, what do we know about it? Have the same slope. So we have to just determine what is the slope of this line. So we can start here at this little slope intersection. And let's say if we count up and over, what will we have to do to get, say, here? Okay. So this looks like it's just about in between here. So it's right here. So you're going to go up 1, 2, 3, and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it'll be 3 up, so that's positive, 6 up, positive. Okay, so if we look here, it looks like that's close to, so let's see if it goes up. So let's go up 1, 2, and over 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be 2, 4. Okay, so can you reduce 3 over 6? You divide by 3. 3 and the 3 will go one time, and then 3 and 6 will go two times. Can you reduce 1/2? That'll be 1, 2. So either way you plot it, you could have gotten up here, kind of up and over, or you could go all the way up here, just so you are right in the crease, in the corner. That's where the line has to be, right on that corner, because that's where you have your pivot. If you're a basketball player, where you pivot over till you see the first corner. You start at this corner, up until you pivot to see the other corner. So we see the slope here for this segment is 1/2. So what is a line parallel? Parallel have the same slope. So the slope of the line parallel would be 1/2 because parallel lines have the same slope. The next question is determine the slope of a line that is parallel to the line through these points. So this last graph, they gave you the graph and you counted it before. Now we're giving you the points. And we want to know what is the slope of a line parallel. So what do we need to do first? Find the slope. So we're going to subtract 8 from 4, gives you 4. That's the y's. 4 minus a negative 2, that changes to positive. That'll give you 6. Again, so it looks like we got the same answer here. So not exactly. So we're going to take half of 4 is 2, half of 6 is 3. So this slope is 2/3 for these 2 points. So parallel lines have what? The same slope. So we know that the answer would be 2/3. That's what it would be. Here's another problem. A line has x-intercept of 5, y-intercept of 8. Determine the slope of a line perpendicular to this line. So if we want to know the slope of a line perpendicular to this line, we got to find what? The slope of this segment of this line. Okay, so let's see. What is the slope of this line? When you have x-intercept, we know that y is 0. So x is 5 and y is 0. So the other coordinate, it says y-intercept is 4, so y-intercept x is 0. Now we have the coordinates. Now we can easily determine the slope, and then we can determine what the perpendicular slope would be. So we're going to first subtract 8 minus 0 will give you 8, and 0 minus 5 will give you negative 5. So that is the slope. So a line perpendicular, what do we know about perpendicular lines? Opposite reciprocal. So we're going to reciprocate, make it 5/8. We're going to take the opposite sign, make that a positive. So the perpendicular line would be 5/8. Now here's a really simple one. If you remember, I told you about this one. Write an equation of the, I'm sorry, typo there, graph of a linear function that has, another typo, sorry, in a hurry, slope -1/3. That's the slope. And, another typo, I'm on a roll here, y-intercept of -3. So what is that? What is that equation? What is that equation, line? I know you know it. Go ahead and write it down. So the equation is y equals, the slope is -1/3 x minus 3. I know you got it. Put check and pat yourself on the back. Okay, next question. Which graph represents the equation? Oops, I should erase that. No, I was right. Okay, which graph represents the equation y equals 3x minus 4? As you see, there's only one graph here. So I just put the right one here so you'll know how to determine which one is correct. The easiest way to determine which graph is the right one is to just look at what you have given. You know the y-intercept is -4. That's where it crosses the y. So if the other graph was up here with the graph, you know that would be wrong. So find that crosses the -4. Okay, this is -4. And you know, okay, it could be this graph. So what's the slope? 3 is the slope. Up 3 and over 1. So let's see if this one works. Up 1, 2, 3, and over 1. We're still on the line. Up 1, 2, 3, and over 1. Still on the line. 1, 2, 3. So we know that this is the correct slope. So if you had four different choices, then you would know that this equation would be the correct answer. Next question is pretty simple too. Which graph represents parallel lines? And it might not be a graph there. It may be A, B, C, D. And here's one of the choices. I didn't just write the distractors because I knew that you already knew what you know about parallel lines. And parallel lines have the same what? Slope, right? So this is the only choice, whether it be choice A, B, C, or D, that have -5 as the slope. Okay, with this question, which graph represents perpendicular lines or that you see here? So perpendicular, we already know perpendicular lines is what? Opposite reciprocal. So this would, of course, be the correct answer because 7 is the slope. The opposite of 7 is negative. Positive is -7. The reciprocal of 7, you flip it and make it 1/7. Okay, here is, I think it's going to be our last one. It says describe the graph, okay, of the linear function with this equation. This is the equation, y plus 3. That's not a negative y, it's just regular y. Y plus 3 equals 1/3 x plus 4. That is the equation. Let me make it a little bigger for you. Okay, that is the equation. Drag it, make it be a little. Here we go. Describe the graph of the linear function with this equation. So remember, this is in like point slope form, remember? And this is our equation. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And remember, you need to have a point and a slope to describe the graph, okay? So to describe the graph, we need to find the points, INT, and we need to know the slope. So from that representation, can we tell the point? So we know this is the y, this is y1, okay? This is x1 for the point. So the x, the point is what? 4, 3. So because this point was the x, and that point was the y. Okay, what about the slope? We know where the slope is. The slope is right here. So the slope is 1/3. So describe the graph of the linear function with this equation. Description of the graph is it crosses a point 4, 3, and it has a slope of +1/3. Be sure and study your notes and do well on the tests.